So I'd like to walk through some of the workflow that I use for running Plan 9 on Windows. And this is using the 9-front distribution of Plan 9. So I've got a Windows terminal running right here. Okay, what I've done here is I ran WSL to get into Ubuntu. And I have a directory here with some shell scripts. One of them is this start qemu script. And this is the command that I'm using to start qemu. So first thing to notice is, yes, I'm running qemu in Ubuntu in WSL on Windows. Now, it is possible to run Plan 9 in QEMU directly on Windows instead of running it inside of Ubuntu in WSL on Windows. In fact, in this window right here, you can see a script that I use to do just that. Instead of a shell script like I have over here, this is just a PowerShell script. The scripts are actually similar. One difference is the line continuation characters. In Linux, we use the backslash. Over here, we use the back quote in PowerShell. So why do I run 9front inside of WSL on Ubuntu? Well, there's this cool project called Plan 9 Port, which is basically a port of a lot of Plan 9 utilities to Linux and other operating systems. I don't yet know of a Plan 9 port that works natively on Windows. As you can see, I have it installed here on Ubuntu and WSL. And it provides a command called 9pfuse that we can use to mount a file system or directory from Plan 9 into Linux. Now, if anybody knows of a way to do that natively on Windows, please let me know. This is one of the reasons I am sharing this workflow so that I can get suggestions from other people, if there's another way to do some of this stuff. Okay, so we're back to our start qemu script, and let's go ahead and run it. Before I do that, you can see this one really long line in here, -net user and then host forward. It's forwarding a bunch of ports. So for example, right here, if I connect to port 17564, that's like connecting to port 564 in Plan 9. Okay, so after starting the script, I see this qemu window. It's at a prompt, so I'm going to hit enter here. And now we're at another prompt. I'm going to hit enter there. And it's continuing to boot. All right, we are in Rio. Side note, if anybody knows how to get it to boot into Rio without those two prompts, let me know. And if that's already answered in the FQA, feel free to just point me there or somewhere else in the documentation that I missed. Okay, so at this point, I want to get Plan 9 listening for Drawterm connections so that I can connect using a native Drawterm window in Windows. And so the aim here is to do as little as possible in the qemu console, just to get it ready to where it's listening. Okay, so I have a folder called docs, and I have a script in there called listen drawterm-001.rc. Okay, so there's that listen drawterm script. And for this example, I'm going to use a silly password of clear text. Okay, so I ran the script, entered the password, and now it's listening. Now, whenever I use Drawterm to connect to this instance, you'll see some output in this terminal window. And what I found is that after I connect a bunch of times, eventually it gets to the end of the window and then it's waiting for me to scroll. And at that point, it no longer accepts connections, or at least that's what it seems like is happening. So to prevent that, I come into this window and I middle click and select scroll. This way the window will not wait for me to manually scroll. Okay, so now 9front is listening for Drawterm connections, and I can hide the qemu console. I'll also close this terminal that's started qemu. Okay, so I have this Windows terminal open, and I'm back in that qemu Plan 9 directory. This is all in Windows. This is not in WSL or Ubuntu anymore. And in this directory, I have a copy of Drawterm for Windows. So at this point, let's actually run that Drawterm command using these parameters. Okay, we get a Drawterm window. It's going to prompt, I'll enter that silly password I entered earlier. Give it a second, and we get a CPU prompt. Right here, I can launch Rio. Okay, Rio's running in Drawterm natively on Windows. I can do new. I can create a new terminal. I can run Acme. Okay, everything's working. Okay, I closed out of that. One thing I wanted to show you is that if you set the all capital letters environment variable pass to the password, then Drawterm will not prompt you for the password. Something else, the Drawterm command will accept a -c parameter with commands to run. So instead of starting up Drawterm and then typing in Rio, I can do this. So I'm saying run plumber and then run Rio. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So I've set the pass environment variable, and now I'm going to run Drawterm. Let's see what happens. Drawterm window pops up. Give it a second to do its thing. All right, Rio's running. Let's open up a terminal window, and I will take a look at mnt plum. And we can see, if you see these files in there, that means that plumber should be running. All right, so at this point, basically, you can now use your 9-front system directly from Windows Drawterm. Things like copy and paste work. So if I just come over to Windows side, copy any text, I can come to Drawterm in here and do left and then right click, and it'll paste just fine. Another cool thing is that if you look at the /mnt directory, you should see a term folder. If you look inside /mnt/term, you'll see a capital C colon, and yes, that corresponds to your C drive on your Windows machine. So this is Plan 9 running in Ubuntu that is able to see your file system on the host server on Windows because you've connected to it using Drawterm. So that's really nice for quickly transferring files in between Windows and Plan 9. Okay, so now in this terminal window, I'm back in Ubuntu inside WSL. And I have a native copy for Linux of Drawterm there. This is in my src Drawterm directory here. And I've done a similar thing as we did on the Windows side. I set the pass environment variable to our silly password. And as you can see, I can run Drawterm on the command line in a way that it doesn't launch a graphical Drawterm, but simply allows me to run arbitrary commands on Plan 9 from Linux. -G says not to run the graphical terminal, and -C says what command to run. So there you can see I ran lc, and there you can see the files in my home directory. If I come back here and change it to date or whatever, okay, we see a date, and you can pretty much run whatever command you want. So what else could we do? Well, here I'm in my Drawterm running on Windows, and I've run this command in a terminal. So it's running exportfs, and I'm providing /user/glenda, which is my home directory. And it's going to use this port, 17020. Now, you might remember that in the start qemu script, we forwarded port 17020. So if we connect to port 1720 on localhost, that will connect us to port 17020 in Plan 9. Okay, back in the Linux terminal, I have a temporary directory here, /temp/9front-glenda, and then I use that 9pfuse command to mount that directory from Plan 9 into Ubuntu. And right here you can see I'm listing it out, and there's the files in my home directory. Okay, so as you can see, we basically have full access to the Plan 9 file system from Linux, as well as the ability to run arbitrary commands in that instance of Plan 9, also from Linux. And we have a really nice graphical console running natively on Windows connected to that same Plan 9 instance. Okay, this next part's going to be very controversial. Please use it responsibly. Don't bombard the community with a bunch of weird random stuff. Please use this to learn. It's really good for learning. Here I'm running codex in that directory, and I've let it know that that directory corresponds to a remote file system on Plan 9 and that it can run arbitrary commands on it. What could go wrong? And here it's confirmed that it's able to run commands on Plan 9. From within an Ubuntu terminal, I've launched Visual Studio Code. Just in case you've never seen that before, if you have Visual Studio Code installed on Windows, you can go into Ubuntu, inside WSL, run code from there, and it will run the full graphical VS Code on Windows, but connected to your Ubuntu system. So this instance is looking at the Ubuntu file system. I went to File, Open Folder, and opened /temp/9front Glenda. And so now VS Code is able to see the Plan 9 file system. This is my home directory on Plan 9, and I've created this test file, just a little RC script, echo test from VS Code. Back in our Drawterm window running on Windows, you can see here that the file shows up in my home directory. I've made it executable, and I've run it. Okay, thanks for watching the Plan 9 qemu adventure tour. Have fun. Let me know what you do with it.